Many thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Momanyi. Our sign language interpreter tonight is William Sila. Now, the opposition team, National Super Alliance, descended on the Rift Valley town of Eldoret for their inaugural rally after officially signing a coalition agreement mid this week. NASA principals Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi and Raila Odinga castigated Deputy President William Ruto following the shoot-to-kill order he decreed on Friday on cattle rustlers, saying his order contravenes the constitution in which he took oath to protect. KTN News senior reporter Duncan Khaemba reports.
Chants that rent the air at Eldoret 64 Stadium when NASA political battalion landed, fulfilling their promise to hold the inaugural rally at the doorstep of Deputy President William Ruto, a Jubilee stronghold.
We are now going down to the grassroots. We are not going to be talking about another stolen election. We are going to make sure there will be no stolen election. These people are going home in daylight.
We are going to show our colleagues how to run the affairs of a country because they have demonstrated and shown how not to run a country.
The leaders accused the government of failing to steady and steer the nation, citing ongoing doctors, nurses, lecturer strike and deteriorating security in some parts of the country as proof enough of an overwhelmed regime.
Hakuna mamlaka chini ya katiba ambayo inamruhusu rais ama naibu wake kusema shoot to kill. Hiyo wajue, hiyo sio chini ya katiba ambayo wameapa kuilinda.
Jana Ruto ndugu yetu amekuwa kule Baringo, risasi imefyatuliwa. Sisi kama wananasa, we are not cynical to say that was stage management. We are truthful to say that is a collapse of the state.
With the alliance declaring that the hour has come for the final liberation of the country, as they accused Jubilee of showcasing leadership of exclusivity.
Ili waende wa remove madeni kwa wakulima wa mahindi hapa na maziwa kutoka kwa AFC, lakini tunasikia wale wa kahawa bilioni 6 zimetengwa.
Tukishika tukielekea kule mbele, tuhakikisha kwamba vijana wanapata haki yao. Hao jamaa waliambia ati 30% ya youth haipatikani, na ukipewa hulipwi, unaweza kungoja mwaka mzima hulipwi.
They harped on Kenya's state of economy, slamming Jubilee for what they called the high cost of living.
Na hata Uhuru amekuwa waziri wa fedha, lakini mimi nashangaa yale madeni yanaweka sahihi akijaza. How does he expect these Kenyans to survive? Kwa sababu jukumu kubwa kwa serikali ambayo inakuja ya NASA, jukumu la kwanza litakuwa kupambana na madeni ambayo ni ya bandia.
Sisi tumesema tutamaliza ufisadi. Mambo ya NYS tumesema, umeona? Tumesema hakuna mtu ambaye anafanya kazi kwa serikali atakubaliwa kufanya biashara na serikali. You are not allowed to do business with the government if you are a government officer. Manake hiyo inaitwa conflict of interest.
From Eldoret, NASA is now training their political guns on Thika Town in Kiambu County, which is President Uhuru Kenyatta's political base.
Mara Jubilee, kamata.
Kamata chini, kamatia chini, kamata chini, kamatia chini, kamata chini, kamatia chini.
Duncan Khaemba, KTN.
And even as NASA leaders criticized him in his Eldoret backyard, the Deputy President William Ruto declared that NASA leaders were free to campaign anywhere in Kenya, including Jubilee strongholds, without fear of harassment. Ruto, who received a warm welcome in Likuyani and Malava in Western Kenya, however, said the NASA team seems confused about how to share power.
Jubilee, Kulipa moja kweli.
Deputy President William Ruto campaigned for Jubilee in Kakamega County and addressed the public at Malaba, Mautuma and Sango in Lukuyani constituency. Ruto said the National Super Alliance leaders were free to hold their rallies in Jubilee strongholds without any fear of intimidation or harassment. The Deputy President scoffed at the opposition for allegedly dilly-dallying in naming its presidential candidate to face off with President Uhuru Kenyatta in the August 8th polls.
Fikia saa hii bado hawajatambua watapigia kura nani. Mpaka saa hii uchaguzi umebaki miezi 6. Bado wanahangaika. Sasa mimi nakuuliza wewe mtu ya Malaba, wanaume 4 wamehangaika miaka 3. Wameshindwa kuamua nani atakuwa kiongozi kati yao. Mpaka wametafuta komiti kusaidia hawa kwa sababu imeshindikana. Wewe utapatia hawa kazi ya kuamua mambo ya watu milioni 40 ya Kenya. Watawezana naye?
Ruto says the opposition unity is driven by greed for power but not development of the country.
Wa Jubilee tunajua wameendesha mambo ya kuunganisha stima. Wameweka vifaa hospitalini. Wamelipa gharama ya mama kujifungua. Wamelipa mambo ya mitihani ya watoto wa shule. Na nyinyi mpango yenu ni gani? Ati mpango ile kubwa wako naye ni kubadilisha katiba ndio tuwe na position ya huyu na position ya huyo.
The difference between the Jubilee administration and CORD ama NASA ni kwamba wao wamesema they want power by all means. Sisi tuko hapa tunasema we want empowerment of Kenyans by all means.
At Malaba, former Kakamega County Lands Executive Suleiman Sumba defected from ODM to Jubilee. Mumias East MP Benjamin Washali, who accompanied Ruto, denied reports in a section of the media that he was warming up to NASA.
Mimi kama Washali mjumbe wa Mumias East nitaunga serikali ya Jubilee mkono na kuunga Uhuru mkono ili achakuliwe tena.
The leaders asked Kenyans to remain united despite holding different political opinions. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
And as the politicians from the two major parties, coalitions rather, talked at each other, Catholic faithful were holding a special ceremony to pray for the upcoming general election in an event organized by the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. The special prayers held at the University of Nairobi graduation grounds was graced by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who pledged to ensure that as the leader of the country, that the elections would indeed be peaceful.
It was a rare convergence at the very same grounds where Pope Francis addressed Kenyans in his very first trip to Africa. This time, the clergy's concern revolving around an election likely to become one of the most heated in recent history.
Lord God, may we elect men and women who will be true shepherds after your heart, leaders who will use the natural and human resources with which you bless our country to serve us and improve our spiritual and material well-being.
And the faithful would gather from as early as 8 a.m. singing songs, taking sacrament, and even praying, all for the sake of the August 8th general elections, in which religious leaders now say they should play a bigger role in securing its credibility. The Kenyan head of state who attended the special prayers would, however, be put under pressure by leaders present to ensure Kenyans' issues were sorted out even before the Republic heads to the ballot.
Mkichagua viongozi ambao ni wafisadi, mtapata ufisadi. Mkichagua viongozi ambao hawatii sheria, mtapata uvunjaji wa sheria. Mkichagua watu ambao hawana heshima, ndio hiyo mtakayopata. Na mara nyingi viongozi huwa ni sura ya nchi.
We're looking at a situation where we will have a clean election, we will have a credible election, we will have a transparent election. That even to the final vote, no one is in doubt about how that vote went.
I believe that even as our airwaves are filled with divisive speeches of some leaders, what our American friends call the silent majority have embraced peace and security. Kenyans know that the true enemy is not those of other ethnicity. Instead, it is bad politics and unethical leadership.
The event meant to officially launch the 2017 Lenten campaign, which begins next week after Ash Wednesday, this year has seen Catholic bishops make bolder declarations, urging their flock to ensure not only that the elections will be peaceful, but also that they ought to elect credible leaders to political posts. In the past, religious organs have been accused of remaining largely silent as politicians abuse ethical and moral standards in conducting their duties. But for the Catholics, they hope today's intervention will not only touch the hearts and minds of Christians in the country, but will also go a long way in shaping the direction the country takes in the future, starting with electing the right leaders as Kenyans head to the polls in just 6 months. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
And let's go to Iten, where KANU leaders endorsed the senatorial bid of former Inspector General David Kimayo. After Kimayo officially joined KANU, led by Chairman Gideon Moi, the KANU leaders criticized the national government's handling of the insecurity in Kerio Valley and Baringo North. Elvis Kosgei was there.
Iten Eldoret Road came to a standstill as a convoy of KANU Brigade snaked through the home of champions. Baringo Senator Gideon Moi and Bomet County Chief Isaac Ruto received a heroic welcome. Speaking in Iten during the launch of former Inspector General David Kimayo's senatorial bid, the KANU and CCM officials took a swipe at the Jubilee government for the runaway insecurity.
Kwamba imefika wakati ambayo rais ya Jamhuri ya Kenya takes charge. And he personally takes charge of this situation. Imegonga Nsamburu, imegonga sisi Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Transmara. And I'll tell you this, it can spiral into something uncontrollable.
Tuko na wasiwasi sababu njaa imekuwa too much. Insecurity imekuwa terrible. Hata sahi watu wanalia huko Marakwet na Pokot pamoja na Baringo. Watu wanalia mpaka huko Turkana. Now what is the problem? Tumeshindwa na kazi ama ni nini?
I'm calling upon the President of Kenya to immediately address the issues of the concerned people. It's unfortunate to see children being massacred, being killed at this time of the 50 years of independence of Kenya down the line.
The leaders asked President Uhuru Kenyatta not to delegate powers to those they termed as political power brokers.
Umesikia ya insecurity. Yule ambaye ataweza hii kazi ya security, tunaamini atakuwa Dr. Kimayo. Unajua ile shida ambayo tuko nayo sisi watu wa Baringo na Elgeyo Marakwet. Hata leo nimetoka asubuhi, poleni nilichelewa, sababu nilikuwa na shida kubwa huko Baringo.
Tukatoa mali zetu, tukasema tutafuta amani. Na wakati tuko kwa harakati ya kwenda petu wa Pokot na tukuje Marakwet, ikakatizwa katikati. Ningeomba profesa na viongozi wengine turudi yale ambayo tulikuwa tumeanzisha.
Na inasemekana shida imetoka East Pokot na pengine West Pokot. Si ungeita viongozi ya West Pokot wakuja hapo ndio useme shida yote, hata hao pia waseme yao. Ungeita watu ya East Pokot wakuwa hapo. Bila naongea saa hii, leo wanashika watu wawili Cheratak na Chisiko. Nimeambia watu yangu msiongee watu ya Facebook, TV, mtaanza kuchoma. Wacha tusemesane na wasee ya mtaa na chiefs ya Marakwet. Wakati kuna shida ya insecurity, haufai kuja rally. unavaa kuja na magari, ita viongozi wote kutoka kaunti zote yenye kuna shida, kalisha hawa, uliza hawa mahali shida iko. Sio kuja kupiga rallies. What they were doing yesterday was just a political rally.
The leaders now want the national government to find a lasting solution to the insecurity menace. Elvis Kosgei, KTN News, in Elgeyo Marakwet County.
All right, and let's stay matters politics. And KTN News Associate Editor Noah Teno joins me in studio to delve deeper into talks about the political climate, talking to men behind power. Noah.
That's right, Sharon. Tonight in Men Behind Power, we have with us the Executive Director for ODM, Mr. Odurongwen, and we are also expecting the Vice Chairman of Jubilee, Mr. David Murade, who says he is on his way. This week, NASA unveiled their deal. They say it's not a power-sharing deal, but exactly what they want to do for this nation after, and that is if they win the August 8th general election. We want to put some of the hot questions that people have been asking around the country about this this deal that was signed on Wednesday, about exactly what NASA wants in this election. And Mr. Durongwen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Welcome to Men Behind Power.
Thank you, Noah.
I want to ask
good
you,
evening, viewers.
Yeah, I want to ask you this question first. Kalonzo Musyoka has been very loyal to Raila Odinga, to CORD, for over 5 years now. Is it too much to ask? Is Raila Odinga too big to say Kalonzo Tosha this year?
Yeah, thank you, Noah, for that question. First of all, let's look at the country. I think as Kenyans, we are so obsessed with individuals. We are facing a crisis. For the last 4 years, we have had a national crisis. Whether it's about corruption, whether it's crisis in education, whether it's in crisis in health, everywhere we have a crisis. So Kenyans should ask, how do we get out of this crisis? And that is what NASA is doing. First of all, we are giving Kenyans what our platform is. That as NASA, this is what we stand for. As NASA, this is how our government will look like. The issue of who becomes president, who becomes what, is important, but that must not be the top issue.
Yeah, they have confirmed tonight that what they are seeking, despite the Jubilee criticism and the laughter from Jubilee members, what they are seeking is exactly political power. And political power is about deal making. It's about giving and taking, being fair to your friends. Do you think that the backers, the people behind Raila Odinga, would allow him to endorse someone else in 2017 without him, Raila Odinga, being on the ballot in NASA?
Now you know that Raila Odinga is one person who has before even stood up at Uhuru Park, not behind closed doors, and endorsed somebody else when everything looked very uncertain. So it's not beyond him to do that. But for us now, that is not a bridge we have reached. First of all, Kenyans should look at Jubilee first. You know, many people are saying Jubilee has failed because it has not fulfilled the promises it made to people. But where I stand, the very moment Jubilee unveiled its manifesto, even if it had fulfilled everything, that is not what Kenyans would have wanted. Because if you look at what Jubilee promised, 5 stadiums in every county, mega infrastructure projects, and so on. Those things are important, but they are not about food on the table of the ordinary mwananchi. So the first thing is about what does the Kenyan out there need? The Kenyan out there before you talk about SGR, is about the matatu fare from Dandora to town. It's about the price of the packet of unga. It's about the child being able to go to school. It's about people going to this hospital and being able to get medicine. When I'm healthy, I'm well fed, then I can look for the stadium. I can go to the stadium. The child who does not have a roof over the top of a classroom, even if you give them the laptop, I'm not saying laptop is useless. So first of all, let's ask ourselves, what did Jubilee promise us, even if we don't check at how they have performed? And that is why, as NASA, we are telling Kenyans that actually what Jubilee did was to give you a post-dated check. And this post-dated check, when you took it to the bank, it bounced. And now again, they want to come and give you another post-dated check. It's only a fool that you would give a post-dated check, it bounces, and then you accept another post-dated check from them.
Part of the reason that Jubilee is laughing, even this evening, is because it is 6 months to the election and counting down. Everybody knows exactly who they are voting for or against in Jubilee Party. Nobody knows who they are voting for or against in NASA. Would you think this is a disadvantage to NASA, or is it an advantage or a tactical game that is being played by NASA?
No, that is another diversionary issue from Jubilee. Let's look at the history of this country before we even look elsewhere. In 1992, for those who were there, when did various parties pick their presidential candidates? I remember, for example, for Ford Kenya, which I was very close to, they picked their candidate at the end of October, and the elections were end of December. That was 2 months to elections. In 1997, look at 2002, the Kibaki Tosha declaration. It was in October. The elections were in December. 2 months to the election. 2007, both ODM Kenya, when did they pick their candidates? It was 31st of August and 1st of September. That was barely 3 months to elections. The last election, 2013, when did the Jubilee, who are now making a lot of noise, pick his presidential candidate? It was at Jivanji Gardens. When was it? It was December. Elections were in March. And that is the same time CORD also picked his presidential candidate. So this is diversionary. If they have their candidate and there was no process, their candidate went through, that is good for them. Yeah, let them market their candidates. Let us do the process. Let Kenyans know what NASA is going to be. Let them know the difference between NASA and Jubilee, and it is like day and light. And even such a big country like US, which is a continent, when did Democratic Party and Republicans pick their candidates for last year's election? It was in July, 4 months to elections. We are still talking about 5.5 months to election, and some people are running around because they have nothing to tell Kenyans about what they have done. And therefore, all they can say is about a flag bearer, flag bearer, flag bearer. So what we need is how to fix the country that Jubilee has destroyed.
There's another issue that has arisen this week, especially after the KANU party announced they would be backing President Uhuru Kenyatta for 2017 re-election. KANU has been cavorting, has been dancing around with NASA. At least some members of KANU have been dancing around with NASA at their public events. Does NASA feel like a jilted lover this week?
I don't know about a jilted lover, but you know KANU has been there longer than any other party. So people know about KANU. So everybody would have loved KANU to have changed when it was in the in the opposition. But you know, it is their freedom, it's their right. As a political party, you are supposed to be driven by ideology. So KANU has found its ideology is closer to Jubilee, and that is their right. So nobody should feel like a jilted lover. Nobody should feel like whatever it is.
Does it complicate the arithmetic for NASA? Especially considering that the NASA presence in the South Rift region and in a large part of the Rift Valley symbolically was seemed to be within reach with KANU supporting NASA. How does it complicate the arithmetic for NASA in the Rift Valley?
Sometimes I'm amused by you people in the media. This obsession with regions, ethnic groups, and so on. Let's talk about Kenyans. What have Kenyans missed in the last 4 years? That is what NASA is going to fix. So it's not about numbers that KANU would bring this, so-and-so would bring that, so-and-so would subtract that. Every Kenyan knows what Jubilee promised, what it was able to deliver, if at all it did, and what it has not delivered. And therefore, it's about Kenyans taking stock, doing a scorecard for Jubilee, and asking, do we want even one more day of Jubilee? For us, that is the most important thing.
Okay, as we wind up.
That is why we are so confident that come 8th of August, Kenyans who have been experiencing the Jubilee rule will make a decision. If they love oppression, if they love what they see in corruption, if they love everything, let them elect Jubilee again.
Finally, as we
but
wind
if
up.
they want an alternative, then NASA is giving them. So it's not about complicating arithmetic and so on. It's about Kenya.
And that is exactly where I want us to wind up.
Yes.
This deal that was unveiled on Wednesday and the future deal that will be unveiled next month in terms of the so-called power sharing, in what way do these deals deal with someone bolting out at the last minute? What are the mechanisms that will deal with somebody deciding, oh, if you guys are not choosing me for deputy president, if you're not choosing me for flag bearer, I'm going. How will you prevent a fallout and a bolting out by any of the principals in NASA right now?
Yeah, again, I'm loving where you are going, but I'm not going with you there.
Why not?
What was unveiled on Wednesday were two things. One was an agreement, a coalition agreement. And for you to reach an agreement, it means that you have looked at your various parties, what they stand for, what are their various respective ideologies, what are their programs, because these are different parties. Unlike Jubilee, we didn't tell people, fold your beddings and join us in my bedroom. No, we told them, you are because parties are formed to pursue something, policies, ideology. And then we looked at these four parties and any that might want to join. Where are the minimum that we agree on? What we don't agree on, NC you can keep, ODM you can keep, Wiper you can keep. But the basic minimums that we agree on, we reach an agreement that we are going to pursue this and we want to work together to achieve them. Once we agreed on that, that is what informed the coalition agreement. And those areas where we agree, they were summarized in the 7-point program of NASA. And if you look at them, from number 1 to 5, you will see it's about national unity, it's about the Kenyan. Okay. The rest, the other two is now what looks at what Jubilee is dangling all around, although it didn't even achieve them, and that is the enablers. Because when you talk about SGR, for them it's the end. For us in NASA, infrastructure is an enabler to make Kenyan have food on their table, to make Kenyan have health services, to make Kenyan farmer be able to take
and that NASA agenda, that NASA program is exactly what we shall be discussing with you again. Hope you'll be joining me again in Men Behind Power next Saturday. Sharon, you've had Mr. Durong Wen, the Executive Director for ODM, speaking to us about the challenges that Jubilee is throwing at NASA and the questions that Kenyans are asking after the unveiling of the deal on Wednesday. We shall be talking more in Men Behind Power on Saturday tonight. Unfortunately, Mr. David Murathe, the Vice Chairman for Jubilee, has not made it on time for this show, but he will definitely be here next Saturday. I'm Noah Otieno, and this is Men Behind Power, the place of politics. Sharon.